Hey, what's going on everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be working on a LED headlamp for the Hyundai Sonata YF. And pretty much, I'm not sure if this is a global issue or if this is just something that happened to me, like a one-off or something. But pretty much what happened was the LEDs wouldn't fit with the dust cover. And so I did a little modification. Now, if this applies to you as well, if you're having the same trouble, then go ahead and follow this video and it should help you out. And if it is helping you out, then be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. So here's the bulbs that we're going to be working with, and they're really good bulbs. And the only problem is just that the fan is really big, and so because of that, it's hard for the dust cap to fit on. And you can see there, that's kind of like a little close-up of the lights that we'll be working with. And so I'm going to make a modification to those little leads right there, the prongs. You can see right there, that's what we'll be working with. And we're just going to solder on some fittings to those leads. And then those fittings will have some wires going. So you can see here, these are the original fittings that come with the lights, and that plastic protection is too big for the dust cover right there. So you can see that, like with the dust cover on, it's just like, it's super tight fit, but the lights are a little offset. So when they sit in the housing, it doesn't fit. So here's their solution. You can see right here, question 6 is the dust cover does not fit the bulb assembly because the fan is too big. What should I do? And their answer is just get a bigger dust cover. Now, I looked online for a bigger dust cover and I found some deeper dust covers, but the issue is that it needs to be wider in diameter, and that I couldn't find. So that's what prompted me to kind of just like start seeing what I could do, what I could find in the garage, and kind of come up with my own solution. So that's when I decided to just get some, wire terminals and take matters into my own hands. So you can see here, this is one of the little connectors that we're going to be using, and just all I had to do is just take off the plastic covering, which is really easy, and I'm just going to use the bare connector, and I'm going to solder it on to the LED just like that. So that's how it's going to be. And if this is helping so far, then be sure to hit that like button. Also, if you know someone that might benefit from this video, go ahead and share it with them. Okay, so you can see here I'm using the blue, which is 16 to 14 gauge, but you can also use red, which is 22 to 18. I highly recommend not going any lower than 18, but 14 is a pretty good size, and that's what I'm going to be using. So that's a 14 gauge wire, that's boat wire. Now I'm using some Ideal Strip Masters to strip this wire. Now these are really good wire strippers, highly recommend them. I'll put them in the description down below where you can pick these up. Also, if you're worried about nicking wires, which is a big no-no, you don't want to nick or cut any wires, then I also put a link down for the mil-spec wire strippers as well. And so you can see here, we're just going to give it a twist and then go ahead and slide it on. Now, another thing when crimping wire terminals to wires, you want to make sure that the seam of the terminal or the connector is sitting in the bottom part, facing away from the jaw or the tooth, I guess, for lack of a better term. You don't want that tooth to crimp down on the seam. So you want the seam sitting in the bottom part. That way, when it crimps, it keeps the seam closed. And you'll see here, after I crimp it, then the crimp is on the back side, and then the seam is still closed. So you can see that the seam did not separate, and it's a good crimp. So right there, it's got the wires, pushed together really well. So now that we have our wire made with both connectors on, and make sure the connectors are facing the same way. You don't want to have one connector facing one way or twisted one way and the other turned another way. It's just going to be a big mess when you're trying to plug everything back together. So from there, we're just going to get some flux. Flux is like soldering's best friend or solder's best friend, and it really just helps the solder to move and to bond to the metal. So whenever you're soldering, always use flux. Most soldering rods, like the wire comes with flux inside, but it's still good practice to flux on the outside, or to use I guess like a extra flux as well. And so here I'm just kind of tacking on the connector the way that I want it to fit. I've been welding for so long and I haven't soldered in a while that I kind of use some welding practices there. But we're just going to go ahead and kind of mate it to the metal. And then from there, we can use some helping hands. And those helping hands is what's going to hold the wire to the light so that when we apply the heat from the soldering iron, it doesn't slide or fall apart or anything like that. It can stay in place. And so now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and apply that heat, and then we're going to apply that solder right down the middle so that it wets and just works its way in between both of those metal pieces there, and creates a good bond, a good connection. And then after that, we're just going to clean it. So you can see here, that's a really nice connection right there. And that yellow kind of copper or amber color stuff, that's just the flux. So we're going to clean that with some alcohol, 99% rubbing alcohol. And just take a toothbrush. And then after that, check to make sure that we have a solid connection. And we do. And everything looks good. So you can see what we're going to do is just apply the same thing to the other lead and to the other headlight. Now for protection, you can use some liquid tape here. Liquid tape is really good, and you would just apply it to the bare metal right there. And it's just like applying, I guess plumber's glue, if you've ever had to use that. It's kind of the same principle. But if you don't want to use the liquid tape, you can use just good old standard electrical tape, which is what I used. And I prefer either one. I'm not kind of against either one. I just decided to use electrical tape for this application. And now what we're going to do is just go ahead and put them in the car. So you can see there's that dust cover. And now we have shrunken down in size. Who remembers the Magic School Bus? Go ahead and hit that like button if you remember the Magic School Bus. And so we're just going to disconnect this wiring harness right there. And you can see that's our halogen bulb right there. That's kind of the I guess, dimmer in a sense, but just, more warmer light bulb. And it's not as bright as the LEDs. The LEDs are definitely brighter. So you can see here, this little spring right here. We're just going to go ahead and pull that out. And it's a little kind of spring loaded, so you just kind of push down and out, and the bulb comes out just like that. Now you see that little tab on the top. Remember that orientation when you pull out the bulb, because that's how the light is going to go in. And if you don't have that tab and that little key slot, then it's just going to make things more difficult. So here, right here, you can see this is the aftermarket one that comes with the LEDs. Now you want to orientate that tab right there so that it goes up in the same direction. And also you see this long tube right here. You want the long end of that tube sticking out. So once we have our little holder orientated in the right position, then we're going to go ahead and put it in the headlight assembly just like that. And remember to install this piece first. Don't install this onto the LED light, then try to install it into the housing, it'll just be a big headache trying to get that metal bracket onto the LED. So install this first, go ahead and put that metal bracket back on and seat it, hook it in place, and make sure that that tab is in the slot. And then from there, we're going to take our LED light with our wires that we've soldered onto the LED light, and we're going to plug them into the wiring harness right there. And for those asking about polarity, I swapped wires and the light still worked. So, as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't matter. But if it does, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know if I made a mistake. Now we're just going to tuck in that harness underneath the headlight assembly right there, or I guess you could say the headlight mounting hole. And then you see those two O-rings. You want to make sure both of those O-rings are inside the tube, and then just kind of rotate the LED so that it looks good on the outside. And you can see the clearance right there. It's still tight even after making the modification. So you can see how it's still tight, and it's a little offset. So that's why it sits low. Now, remember the plastic fittings that I showed you earlier at the beginning of this video. With those on, it would really be tight. And, I don't like running the headlights without the cap, because dust will get in, water can get in, or moisture. So, just want to make sure that the cap is fitted, and it is, and the lights look great. So that's the brighter LEDs, and amazing. And that light angle on the right, that's an aftermarket headlamp. So it's not the LEDs, it's actually the headlamp. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time.